Yo, what's going on, everybody? It is your boy Fitzmonk TV here, aka Jalon33. I'm back with another video on the channel for you guys today. And today, I'm here with your Monday Night Raw review and results for August 5th, 2024, right here on the Legit Shoot podcast. Thank you guys for taking some time out of your day to join me to talk a little bit of wrestling, right? We're coming off of a crazy Summerslam weekend. And you know, WWE, even though Summerslam was such a big event for them, they're always on to the next big thing, which is now Bash in Berlin coming up at the end of the month, right? And Monday Night Raw came out tonight with an awesome show in Baltimore, Maryland. We saw the continuation of some really good rivalries before SummerSlam. We also saw the start of some new rivalries, and we also saw the buildup of some new stars that are going to be have a lot of eyes on them as we head into the late summer and early fall months for WWE. So we're going to talk about it all here, right here on the channel here tonight. First off, if you guys are new to the channel, first off, thank you guys for taking some time out and checking the channel out. If you guys are new, leave a like on the video, subscribe, and hit the bell next to my name, Fitzmonk TV, so you guys are notified every time I post a new video. I talk wrestling on here. I also do a little bit of anime, a little bit of gaming, a little bit of sports. So a lot of cool stuff from the pop culture world. So if you guys enjoy what you guys hear or anything you guys see, please subscribe. You guys are not going to regret it. If you guys haven't already, check out my SummerSlam review. It is live on the channel. Thank you guys for everyone who's already checked that out. We went through everything that happened on the show, all of the big moments, some of those big moments that led into Monday Night Raw tonight, and we're going to talk about it on here. So thank you guys for that. Let's not waste any time. We're not streaming. This is a pre-recorded episode today, so nothing about Super Chats or anything like that. So let's not waste any time. Let's get into it. So, like I said, this was the fallout show of SummerSlam. Now that SummerSlam is over, we are on to the next big PLE, which will be Bash in Berlin at the end of August. I believe it's Saturday, August 31st. So WWE's going back to the international PLEs. This time they're going to Germany. So we've seen it pretty much all year. WWE has spent a lot of time doing a lot of big PLEs overseas. From Backlash in France to, Clash of the Castle. Now they're going to Berlin, Germany for Bash in Berlin. So WWE keeps the momentum going up. And we know after SummerSlam, SummerSlam is one of their, their bookmark events, right? You have Royal Rumble, WrestleMania, SummerSlam. Some look at Survivor Series as a benchmark event as well, right? And usually after one of the big four PLEs, or big five, because I forgot to include Money in the Bank in there, right? After one of the big five PLEs, right, WWE kind of likes to reset themselves in a way. They like to introduce some new things, some new storylines, some new characters, and they also like to, continue some of the big rivalries that took place before that. So we saw that a lot tonight with Monday Night Raw. One of the big things WWE loves to do after a big PLE is they like to do the first Raw of after a PLE. They love to do the first hour commercial free, right? We know, of course, once WWE moves to Netflix in a couple of months, that will go away, right? Because there won't be commercials like that on Netflix. But we saw the first hour of Raw tonight was commercial free, and they set up some big things right away. One of the big things is Gunther. Right, Gunther is the new World Heavyweight Champion after defeating Damian Priest, and most of us are expecting Gunther to have a pretty lengthy reign as the World Heavyweight Champion. I will be the first one to say, I said this on the SummerSlam review, I'm not the biggest Gunther fan, not because he stinks in the ring. He is one of the best in the world at what he does. I'm just not the biggest fan of him personally. Not the biggest fan of his character. And I'm probably in the minority in that boat, and I'm fine. It's my opinion. But, Gunther still, I expect Gunther to have a pretty lengthy reign as World Heavyweight Champion. No, I don't think it'll be anywhere close to how long his Intercontinental Championship reign, his record-breaking one, was, where that was like over 800 days. But I expect him to hold the title for a pretty significant amount of time. and they set up his first opponent tonight. And the thing about it was, it wasn't some of us expected it to be, Drew McIntyre or Seth Rollins or CM Punk. I thought maybe they were going to potentially do maybe like some kind of triple threat match, or maybe a mini tournament to determine, or maybe a battle royale to determine Gunther's first opponent, right? Of course, Bash in Berlin is going to be in Germany, where I believe Gunther is from. So his first defense will be in front of a home crowd. But they did something that was unexpected, but there was no complaint from me and made a lot of sense. And actually continued a storyline that WWE started with Gunther earlier in the year, which is one of the best things about Triple H. He loves to continue storylines that have already, that have taken place in the past. So what are we talking about here? So, of course, we're talking about earlier this year. If you guys remember, we had in the King of the Ring tournament, we had Randy Orton and Gunther were in the finals, and of course, the winner of that match would get a championship opportunity at SummerSlam. The winner didn't know that at the time, but that was, that was what was announced 2 days before King of the Ring, right? And we had Randy Orton and Gunther, and you guys remember, Gunther did win that match, but he didn't win without controversy, right? Randy Orton's shoulders were not fully pinned. They weren't fully pinned to the mat, but the ref missed it, so Gunther got the win. And then, everyone noticed and talked about on social media afterwards. Triple H admitted that the ref made a mistake, but that the referee's decision was final either way. And Triple H said that, over time, right, there would be a second Randy Orton and Gunther match down the line, and this wasn't over between them. We didn't know when that would be, but WWE did something really smart and really cool tonight, right, in the opening segment. So Gunther comes out to start the show, and of course he's talking about, what kind of champion he's gonna be, and basically he ran down his list of accomplishments from being the NXT UK champion, being the longest reigning IC champion, then also being Mr. King of the Ring, and now he's the world heavyweight champion. And Gunther, of course, wearing a suit. Gunther has the look of a champion, right? No one's gonna deny that. He has the look. He has everything needed to be a long reigning champion in WWE. And he's really good at being a heel. He knows how to get down, to get under the skin of the fans, and he doesn't have to do it, doing these crazy measures, right? He just sends simple jabs, no matter if it's calling, the fans bums or the babyface bums or street trash or something like that. It's those little jabs he does that makes him a great heel. So Gunther's saying that, now he'll bring prestige to the World Heavyweight Championship and, this great sport, and being the babyface of Raw. He said nobody will be able to catch him off guard. There will be no surprises, right? And he'll always be prepared for all of his challengers, things like that. And then Randy Orton came out, which surprised everybody. Of course, Randy Orton is a SmackDown superstar. And he's supposed to be exclusive to SmackDown via the draft. But Randy Orton came out. Everyone was singing Voices, his theme song. And the first thing Gunther said, Gunther said, okay, Randy, not gonna lie, you proved me wrong, because I did not expect that. And basically, Randy Orton was straight and to the point. Randy didn't congratulate Gunther for becoming World Heavyweight Champion. He said that was not his style, but he says that the World Heavyweight Championship does look really good on him. But Orton said he couldn't help but think that the only reason why Gunther is champion because of him, and they did the callback to King of the Ring, and everybody remembered what happened at King of the Ring when Gunther did beat Randy Orton, but Orton's shoulders were on the mat. Right, so Randy Orton basically said that he talked with Triple H, right, and this was how they would make up for that mistake at King of the Ring. And Orton basically challenged Gunther right then and there to a World Heavyweight Championship match at Bash in Berlin. Gunther accepted it, right, and he also said, but he told Randy straight to his face, you're not going to be able to catch me with an RKO out of nowhere. And Orton says, out of nowhere or not, I am going to beat you. They shook hands, and that was the segment. Very simple segment, but the big thing, of course, was the surprise of Randy Orton being there on Raw, and the surprise of them booking Orton and Gunther for a World Heavyweight Championship match in Germany. So really good stuff to start the night on Raw. It was not what anybody expected. Everyone was listening who should be Gunther's first challenger, and of course you're going through the superstars on Raw, right? Some people are saying Ilya Dragunov, some people are saying Sami Zayn, right? Revisit that rivalry now that Zayn is no longer IC champion. Some are saying Jey Uso. Some are saying, of course, maybe McIntyre, especially after McIntyre got his big victory over CM Punk at SummerSlam. Of course, some are saying Punk or Rollins. I think over the course of Gunther's reign as champion, right, I think most of those guys will have a crack at Gunther at some point. There's many people, on the Raw roster that are worthy challengers for Gunther. But the Randy Orton being the first challenger was unexpected, and there's no complaints. It makes sense. It makes sense. And always complaining because it's a continuation of a story with Gunther and Orton that's already taken place. If this was the Vince McMahon era, there'd be a lot more unhappy people. Because there wouldn't be much logic behind Orton facing Gunther, right? They want to give you the explanation of what happened at King of the Ring. It would more just be, Vince is just booking it just to book the match, right? We're bringing Orton over for SmackDown just because, right? But at least with Triple H, there's an explanation here, and it makes sense following what happened in the past. That's one of the reasons why Triple H is so good in this role. It's so good because, you're getting an explanation that actually makes sense, which is something you just didn't get in the Vince era. So Orton and Gunther, makes perfect sense for Bastion Berlin. And honestly, Orton's, there's no better challenger for Gunther for his first title defense than Randy Orton. So so applause for Triple H for continuing that storyline and for giving us already what should be a banger of a match at Bastion Berlin. We'll see if it's the main event. I don't know, because it'll depend on if Cody's defending on the show, which I suspect he will. Right? We don't know. Hopefully we'll get some more information on that for SmackDown this Friday. But still, either way, WWE's already booked themselves one hell of a match for Bastion Berlin. As much as I would love to see Randy Orton, as world champion again, I don't see it happening, of course, especially with this being Gunther's. I just dropped my water bottle cap. It's all the way under my desk. So I'm not getting that now. Under my desk is kind of dirty, but still, WWE's already booked them one hell of a match for Bastion Berlin, and like I said, I would love to see Randy Orton be champ, but I don't see it happening, right? Especially with this being Gunther's first defense, it's just not gonna happen right now. We'll just have to see. In time, I don't see Gunther losing that title anytime soon. So, and now that we know there's no Money in the Bank winner, or Money in the Bank briefcase to serve as a threat, Gunther at minimum is not losing that title till probably at least WrestleMania. And even so, I don't even know if Gunther will lose at WrestleMania this year, but we'll see. We'll see. That's still a long ways away. That's like 8 months away. We got plenty of time before we get there. But so, really good way to start off Monday Night Raw. It was an unexpected way, but, nobody's complaining there. Moving on, we had Sheamus versus Ludwig Kaiser, of course. This is a continuation of another rivalry. Remember, Ludwig Kaiser was injured a couple weeks back, and was out of action, and him and Sheamus had been feuding before that. And now that he was back tonight, Sheamus and Kaiser, continuing their rivalry, and all that good stuff. So that was the first match of the night. As we also know, Sheamus has had a little bit of a rivalry as of late with his old buddy Pete Dunne from the Brawling Brutes, right? So during the match, Pete Dunne tried to interfere, but Sheamus was able to dodge Pete Dunne's attack and then hit him with a jumping knee, and then he hit Kaiser with a bro kick, and that got him the win. So pretty good stuff. Of course, Sheamus, banger after banger after banger. So of course, at some point, Sheamus and Pete Dunne are going to go face to face here. Maybe they do that at Bash in Berlin. I don't know, but still, we know that is coming, and hopefully, remember, that stems from their time back on SmackDown as the Brawling Brute. It would be good to see Pete Dunne give a little bit more of an explanation of why he's so frustrated with Sheamus, because even though we know a little bit of the story, you want to hear a little bit more from Pete Dunne himself, right? Because the fans love Sheamus, and Pete Dunne's a great wrestler, but you want to hear him give more of an explanation of why he's so frustrated with Sheamus. Instead of just seeing them fight, we know when these two fight, it's going to be a banger of a match, right? Pun intended. But you want, one of the great things about WWE nowadays is because they add, there's so many story elements into their big matches. That's what makes it special and gets you more invested. So hopefully we get more of an explanation here from Pete Dunne in the next couple of weeks of his real frustrations with Sheamus, so we can get more invested in that. Another thing I want to note, Braun Breaker of course we know Braun Breaker is the new IC champion, right? He beat Sami Zayn at SummerSlam. And I love Braun Breaker. Even though I was sad to see Sami Zayn's championship run end, Braun Breaker is going to be a star in this company for the next decade, hopefully. And I have no complaints of Braun Breaker, being the new IC champion. I love Braun. The guy has all the tools to be a future world champion. One thing I would note, Braun Breaker cut a really good promo later in the show about why the IC champion is perfect for him. Braun Breaker talked about how, in less than 3 years on the main roster, he's been NXT champion. He's won the NXT Tag Team Championship, and he's only been on Raw now a couple months, and now he's the IC champion, right? And he talked about now how, as IC champion, he's not the hunted, but he's the hunter. Just because he's champion, he's not looking down on anybody. He says that there's nobody in the locker room that can take his name, his side plates off of that belt. Because he said the IC championship was made for him. And the IC championship looks perfect on Braun Breaker. Braun basically said, I'm putting the whole locker room on notice. I'm coming for everybody. People can claim that they're coming after me and my title. But I'm coming after everybody instead. So really good promo. I will say this. I believe if I'm right, the IC title is the only championship that Sheamus has not won, right? I want to see Sheamus versus Braun Breaker. And I think Sheamus should be considered when the time is right to potentially take that IC title away from Braun Breaker. I think him or Ilya Dragunov, when I look at the current Raw roster, I think those two are two people that you should keep in mind to take the IC title from Braun Breaker when the time is right. We're not there right now, right? Braun's reign has just started, but I think those two names. I would love to see Sheamus become a Grand Slam champion, and I love Sheamus too. I would love to see him as champion again. So just something to consider going forward if anybody from WWE is watching. Okay. But really good stuff there with Sheamus. And we'll see what happens with him and Pete Dunne in the coming weeks. Next up, so we had one thing to note when it comes to the IC title before we move on. Later in the show, we saw Sami Zayn backstage. He was, a little bit down in the dumps. Of course, after losing his IC title to Braun Breaker at SummerSlam. Jey Uso was trying to cheer him up. And Sami Zayn's like, I don't know, this hit's different. And Jay's like, no. They keep your head up. You're Sami Zayn. You're going to be fine. You're going to, do whatever it takes to win back the IC title, right? And after a little bit of convincing, Sami agreed, and it was announced that next week on Raw, I believe they're in Austin, Texas next week, and they're back. They'll be also back on Monday Night Raw, or not Raw. They'll be back on USA Network because, of course, the last 2 weeks they've been on Sci-Fi because of the Olympics. They'll be back on the USA Network. And next week, we'll get Zayn versus Braun Breaker for the IC title in a 2 out of 3 falls match. So this will probably be the conclusion, I'm willing to bet, of the Sami Zayn and Braun Breaker rivalry. So that will probably be the main event. I'm thinking right now that will probably be the main event of next week's Monday Night Raw, and that should be an awesome match. Right there. And Jey Uso also said, yeah, you're going to win back the IC title, and then me and you are going to make you a double champion because we're also going to deal with the Judgment Day. So they've already teased what they have planned going forward for both Sami Zayn and Jey Uso. So even if Zayn doesn't win the IC title back, which I don't expect him to next week, I think maybe either the Judgment Day or somebody will get involved, and that will cost Sami Zayn in his rematch. They've teased that, after that, Zayn and Jey Uso are going to become a tag team again, just like they were back in the Bloodline, and then they will go after JD and Finn Balor of the Judgment Day for the WWE Tag Team Championships, which I'm all for. That should be some really good matches between those two teams, and that's a rivalry I'm kind of excited to see. Of course, we know that Jey and Zayn did feud with the Judgment Day last year, right? Last fall. That led all the way through War Games. But, this is a different Judgment Day as well, as we will get into in just a little bit. And, I would love to see Jey and Sami Zayn potentially become tag team champions. I also, like I said, I think also with Roman Reigns being back on SmackDown, of course, I expect eventually, we'll see how it's done, but I expect eventually, Roman to be reunited with Jimmy and Jey and Sami Zayn, and then we'll see the original Bloodline come back together, the challenge Solo's Bloodline on SmackDown, which could potentially be War Games in November. But, we're still about, 3 months away from that, but, I think that's something to watch out as also. So that all leads back to what we've been talking about with the IC Championship. So, like I said, Zayn and Braun Breaker next week. 2 out of 3 falls in Austin, Texas on Raw for the IC title. I don't expect Zayn to win, but should be a banger no matter what. Next up, we have Damian Priest. Damian Priest came out and called out Finn Balor. He was infuriated, rightfully so, after Finn Balor cost him the World Heavyweight Championship at SummerSlam and betrayed him as well. Right? Priest cut a pretty good promo, and I will say this. Damian, I think I said this on SummerSlam, but WWE, I was worried about at first that they were trying to force Damian Priest into a babyface right after WrestleMania, because it was obvious right after WrestleMania that they wanted to turn Priest into a babyface, and eventually Finn Balor was going to turn. They've been teasing that for a year now, but they made it pretty obvious where they were going with this after WrestleMania. With Priest's first feud against, Jey Uso, where Priest was supposed to be a heel, but they more had Priest playing a tweener, right? And Jey was, of course, an obvious babyface for that match. But they've convinced me they have turned Damian Priest into a pretty damn good babyface, which, like I said, I didn't expect it. I was interested. I don't know if this is gonna work, but they've done a good job. So credit to Triple H and everyone backstage for their job doing that. They've done a good job. Priest is actually now, I think, one of the top babyfaces now on Raw and in the company. There's still, I will say this as well. One thing that just Raw tonight and WWE general, the roster is absolutely stacked. And all avenues, there are stars everywhere, man. And most of these guys, you take them into AEW or any other of the other big companies, and they are probably the world champions of those brands. WWE's main roster division on Raw and SmackDown is stacked, and and don't get me started on the NXT pipeline as well. There are so many. This roster is so insanely deep with talent, and I can make a case for all of these superstars to be champions. It's insane. It's honestly insane. To think about, and you can see why not. Some of these superstars, why they can't be on TV every single week. It's hard to book, even with a 3-hour show. It can be hard to get all of these superstars on television. But credit to Triple H and his team; they're doing the best they can. There are a lot, especially at the top of the card. There are a lot of baby faces. Right now on Raw. I do think they may have to work on getting some more heels. But, think about it now. You got, like, Damian Priest. You have Jey Uso. You have Sami Zayn. You have Rollins. You have CM Punk. Right? Those, like, the 5 big baby faces right there. Don't forget guys like Sheamus and Ilya Dragunov. Right? The New Day. The list goes on. Did I say Seth Rollins? Right? I think I said Seth and CM Punk. But, like I said, there are a lot of baby faces on this show. Braun Strowman, right? And I'm just thinking as the names just come to my head. Now you have the Wide Six as well. They're a babyface group. Like, there are a lot of baby faces on this show. And again, it can be hard. It can be hard to book baby faces. Heels are easier to book, but baby faces, because, it's hard to have everybody at the top of the card feel important. Right? Especially when they have the fans behind them as well. But yeah, they've done a really good job with Damian Priest. He is now actually a beloved babyface on the Raw roster. And he came out, he got a pretty good promo talking about how what is it? Talking about how with the even though Finn Balor betrayed him, right? He's now, because when he first got into Judgment Day, or no, sorry, I'm getting it wrong. He said basically he was used to being alone his entire life, right? That's what it was, being alone and fighting on the street. But now, he doesn't have that anymore. When he first joined the Judgment Day, that was his family. That was, but now he has a new family, and that is the WWE Universe. It was a pretty good promo. And then Finn Balor, of course, interrupted him. Finn Balor was, backstage on the monitor. And Finn and basically talked about how this had all come, how he did love Damian Priest. But everything changed when he became world champion. He had a photograph stemming all the way back from SummerSlam 1 year ago when Finn faced Seth Rollins, who was the world heavyweight champion at that time, and how he believed that Priest cost him that. And how, he waited a whole year later to get his revenge, right? It's, like I said, we talked about the second it happened at SummerSlam. A year ago, Priest cost Balor, or that's the way Balor saw it, right? And how 1 year later, now you have Balor betraying Priest for the World Heavyweight title. Really, really good callback. Really, really good storytelling that comes full circle, right? And he also said that, that he was not going to get his hands dirty. He was going to wait for the perfect moment when Priest had just forgotten about Balor, and that would be when he would strike from the shadows. Yeah. So good stuff. And that's and then Balor revealed that JD McDonald would face Priest later on in the night. So it seems like Priest is gonna have to work his way up to gain the Finn Balor classic heel maneuver. This is clearly gonna be a rivalry that stems over a couple months. And now that you look at it, you can see, I think a lot of these rivalries right now are gonna go all the way up through the fall to October when we get to WWE Bad Blood and Survivor Series. Those are two pay-per-views that make sense for a lot of these rivalries, to end. So I think Bad Blood will probably be maybe when they do the big Priest versus Balor match. It's going to be hard to keep these two away each other for another 2.5 months, but I think, that's what WWE's plan is. And we'll talk about what Priest is going to do I think Priest will probably be at Bash in Berlin, but we'll talk about that here in a little bit when we get to his match with JD. But, Balor ended his promo by revealing the new Judgment Day, his version of the Judgment Day, which is pretty similar to the old version, but of course it doesn't no longer has Rhea Ripley and Damian Priest, who were of course the two leaders of the old Judgment Day from the last 2 years. It's crazy how much time flies. 2 years ago was when I believe Balor kicked Edge out of the Judgment Day, and then here we are 2 years later. Now Balor has his version of the Judgment Day. But the new Judgment Day, Balor being the leader, JD McDonough, Carlito Carlito is officially part of the new Judgment Day, and of course Dominic and Liv Morgan. So Liv takes Rhea's spot, and Carlito joins, and Balor is now the leader with Damian Priest out. So the new Judgment Day has been formed. It was funny, you see Dominic and Liv Morgan kissing each other in the background. I have to keep reminding myself that Dominic's married in real life. But he's having fun with Liv Morgan. Them kissing each other on screen now was hilarious stuff there. But yeah, that's the new Judgment Day officially. So Liv Morgan and Carlito are officially part of the Judgment Day. So yeah, can't wait for WWE 2K25 when we get that entrance. That's gonna be something. But we'll talk a little bit more about the Judgment Day here in a little bit when we talk Damian Priest and JD McDonough. So we have Lyra Valkyria versus Shayna Baszler. So, like I said, this match, these are two that can absolutely wrestle. We know this, but it ended abruptly in a disqualification because Sonya Deville and Zoe Stark jump. They jumped Lyra, and then they beat Valkyria down until Damage Control made the save. Of course, you guys remember in the past couple of weeks we saw like Kaden Carter, Katina Chance, Zelina Vega. They've all been victims of this, these big rivalries between Damage Control and Deville, Stark, and Baszler. I don't think Baszler, Stark, and Sonya's new faction has a name, but we're seeing, this thing of like faction wars is forming now in the women's division, which I like. But yeah, this would build heat for a match between Deville and Dakota Kai later on in the night, which we'll talk about a little bit later. So, like I said, yeah. So I think the big thing here, clearly WWE, they're trying to build up Lyra Valkyria. Of course, we know she's a former NXT Women's Champion, and I think WWE sees big things in her. This is someone that could be a future Women's World Champion, but especially she's wrestling almost every single week on the show. I've personally noticed that. I think others are as well. So clearly they want her in front of the fans. They want the fans to, gravitate towards her. She has a pretty cool entrance, as well. And I think the fans are slowly coming together on her, right? I would just say they got to just keep going with her. Keep going with her. I think, WWE should consider, right, depending on what their plans are with Liv Morgan and Rhea Ripley, because I know a lot of people want to see Rhea Ripley become women's champion again, but Liv Morgan is so good and so on fire right now, right, that you can't just take that title off of Liv. And I know some people may look at Bad Blood. It might be the perfect time to give Rhea the championship back, but like I said, I don't think WWE should rush giving Rhea the title. I think they've struck gold with the Liv Morgan, Rhea Ripley, Dominic Mysterio. It's secretly one of WWE's best storylines. So I don't know. Maybe I think they should consider Lyra as a future challenger for Liv Morgan here as we enter the late summer, early fall. I think that would be a good way to get her some more exposure. Put that on one of their PLEs, right? I think that will go a long way in building Lyra up. And getting her more connected with the WWE universe. But yeah, it's good to see that they have that Triple H is prioritizing using the woman more in other circumstances outside of this title feuds. It's cool to see that they got this thing brewing with these faction wars right now between Damage Control and the faction of Sonya Deville, Zoe, and Shayna Baszler. Hopefully they get a name here in the next couple weeks, so I don't have to call them by all their names every single time we mention them. But yeah, I it's a good side story. Also, Damage Control is now baby faces. That was never really no explanation for that. It was just kind of like, all right, they get attacked by Shayna, Stark, and Deville, and that means they're baby faces now. I don't know. It would kind of be good to kind of get a little bit of an explanation on that, but whatever. Maybe I'm just nitpicking a little bit too hard. But like I said, I prefer explanations personally. But yeah. But yeah, moving on. We had CM Punk hit the ring, right? Let me see. I don't know. I haven't done this in a while. Let me see if I can play the clip from the actual promo. One thing, like, I've noticed, if you guys notice, sometimes my videos lag because something's like wrong with my CPU now. I never used to have this, problem before, but now, I don't know. We have a lot of, the CPU gets used up a lot more on here. And so I'm not gonna pull up the full clip because I can already tell it's kind of lagging the computer a little bit. And WWE did post a full clip, and it's like 13 minutes long. I'm not gonna put us through a 13-minute clip. But CM Punk came out to a huge pop. Baltimore was a very good crowd tonight. I will give them credit. They were a very, very good crowd tonight. Punk came out to a thunderous ovation and talked about how he hadn't been in Baltimore in over 10 years since he had left WWE. And he talked about, even though he lost at SummerSlam, there was stuff that he was proud of. He talked about how, he basically pulled a John Cena. You guys remember when Cena was in his prime, Cena was known for coming back from injuries way ahead of schedule. Punk said that originally when he injured his triceps at Royal Rumble, he was told he would be out 9 months, so close to a year. So technically he wasn't going to be able to return until probably this fall, right around October, and he returned in 5 months and was back at SummerSlam. So technically it was more, 7 months, right? Because Royal Rumble was back in January, SummerSlam just happened in August, so it's technically more 7 months, but still, he was still back in time, way ahead of schedule, because, we didn't know when Punk was really going to be able to come back, but he did come back ahead of schedule, and he looked great at SummerSlam. He also talked about how, even though he lost, he can deal with that. He talked about how his road to WrestleMania starts now. Many people talk about how their road to WrestleMania starts in January, but for him, it starts now because that was one of his goals, the main event, WrestleMania. And so basically, Punk's like, his road to WrestleMania starts now. And as long as he's still breathing and he has fight left, that him and Drew McIntyre were not done by a long shot. And that he wanted round 2 with Drew. He wanted a rematch. But before that, Seth Rollins came out, and Seth took his jacket off, and it looked like Seth was ready for a fight. Basically, Seth said, "I have been waiting for 10 years now to finally put you in the dirt, and now that you're clear, I'm finally gonna get my chance." Right? We all knew that we weren't gonna actually get Seth and Punk. That's too big of a match just to get these two brawling on Raw. One thing that is interesting, I don't know when that match is going to take place. Because of and that's it's kind of cool. You get the unpredictability of it, right? Because Seth and Punk, we were originally supposed to get that match at WrestleMania, but of course Punk got injured and everything happened with The Rock, the plans, and Cody Rhodes, all the plans changed, right? And now you have Punk in this awesome rivalry with Drew, and Seth's in the middle of it. When's the perfect time to actually pull the trigger on a Seth and Punk match? Can you keep Seth and Punk separate, all the way to WrestleMania? Do you want to delay this match all the way to WrestleMania? Or do you do it sometime this fall? Maybe at, maybe Survivor Series, right? Or maybe do it at Bad Blood, but I don't think so. I think, you got to continue with Punk and Drew into the fall, and then you wait a little bit longer on Seth. And I think, of course, for the time being, Seth's going to be occupied and away from Drew and Punk. And we'll talk about what they did tonight in just a sec. But, Seth basically didn't get to come in the ring, but it looked like Punk was about to block him from getting into the ring. And then Seth said, "Hey, I don't need to get into the ring to beat your ass. I'll beat your ass here out on the floor." But Punk let him get into the ring. He roasted Seth. I don't remember it was a really good line about how Seth dresses. And then before these two came to blows, Drew McIntyre came down he was in the crowd, started coming down, and started talking. Right, but Punk and Seth weren't paying attention to Drew. They were too locked in on each other. Drew said that, look, I'm going to talk about your favorite thing. I'm going to talk about you, Punk. And he actually gave Punk some flowers. He said that Punk still actually has it because Punk brought the fight at SummerSlam. But that still wasn't enough to get Punk's attention. And then, of course, Drew knew what to do. Drew brought up the bracelet and brought up Punk's dog, Larry, and his wife, AJ Lee. And Punk just couldn't help himself. He exited the ring, went after Drew in the stands. But Punk never really got his hands from him because Adam Pearce was able to, escort McIntyre from the beginning or out of the building before Punk could get to him. And that was that. And then Rollins then got attacked by Bronson Reed. And what was one of the best things of the show, Bronson Reed, and this was really good. So earlier in the night, Bronson Reed went to Adam Pearce and told Adam Pearce, "Hey, so is this what I got to do to get stuff done around here, right? Braun Breaker attacks people and he gets IC title matches. Look what Pete Dunne and Sheamus are doing. So I guess for me, since if you're not gonna make a mark for me, right? If you're not gonna make moments and opportunities for me, I guess I have to do it myself." So basically, Bronson Reed tells Adam Pearce, like, "Hey, I'm gonna attack people. That's what I have to do to get an opportunity. Saying you're not gonna be able to stop me, right?" And it's like Adam Pearce knew what Bronson Reed. Everyone knew what Bronson Reed was about to do. We just didn't know who he was gonna actually do it to, right? So he leaves, and then he attacks. Seth Rollins, and he hit him with not one, not two, not three, not four, not even five, but six tsunamis. And the crowd got into it. A star-making moment. And the way Michael Cole and Pat McAfee, amplified it on commentary was very, very well done. Really good stuff here. Bronson Reed saying, "Hey, I'm going to come out and get my moment." The first tsunami is one of my favorite finishers in the WWE. I love when Wade Barrett was calling Bronson Reed matches the way he would say it, right? "Here comes the tsunami." And Michael Cole and Pat McAfee do a really good job of calling it as well, right? And after the first couple, it was like, all right, but then Bronson Reed just kept going back to the top rope. And then you see Jason Jordan and all the officials and everything. They just couldn't do anything. They're trying to stop him, but nobody dared try to bring Bronson Reed down. There was no security or cops that, So it does make the WWE officials look stupid when they do that. Because, instead of actually, escorting or pulling the person away, right? They just sit there and act like the superstar is going to listen to them. But they always get ignored, and the superstar does whatever they want to do, right? So after the second tsunami, right, Bronson Reed just kept going back up, and the fans kept saying one more time, and the fans were like, "Holy shit, this is awesome!" And it was an awesome segment, because it makes Bronson Reed look like a badass. It makes his finisher look like one of the best finishers in the entire company. It's like now it just feels like the tsunami's up there with the End of Days and the RKO, right? As one of the best finishers that we have, and the South of Heaven chokeslam. But it was a well done segment, and now Bronson Reed looks like a star. And now Bronson Reed clearly it looks like Seth ate one of those like blood capsules or whatever because he was bleeding out of the mouth, right? And then he was taken to a medical facility, and they said that Seth was suffering from internal bleeding, and may have had some cracked ribs per storyline, of course. But now you see, in the meantime, that would be Seth's next rivalry now, dealing with Bronson Reed. And how Bronson Reed, goes after, one of the top baby faces on Raw. So really good stuff there. And yeah, I love it. I love it. Bronson Reed had kind of gotten forgotten a little bit. He was lost in the shuffle. I think he had a couple matches against Sami Zayn for the IC title, right? But, after Sami beat him at, I believe what it was it Clash of Champions early this year, if I was right? He kind of just fell back into the shuffle, and now this brings all the attention back to him, and now he looks like a amazing star. Now he looks like a total badass. And now he's like somebody that you just can't freaking mess with on Monday Night Raw. So we'll see. We'll see where this goes from here. I think one thing that we need to keep in mind. Honestly, I said this right away. I was like, all right. This is a star-making moment for Bronson Reed. I don't see Bronson Reed in the IC title hunt right now, especially now that Braun Breaker, even though I think Braun Breaker is more of a heel than a babyface, right? Even though he does have some babyface tendencies at time, but I think right away I was like, all right, I think you need to consider moving Bronson Reed to SmackDown. And maybe this is the guy you might build up for a rivalry with LA Knight for the U.S. Championship. Like, that was what I was thinking right now. Maybe you consider Bronson Reed beating LA Knight for the U.S. Championship at some point, right? Not now, of course. LA Knight just won that title, but maybe in the future, in the coming months. But we'll see. We'll see. But this was one of those star-making performances tonight. It makes Bronson look like a star and somebody that you just can't mess with going forward. So hopefully WWE uses this opportunity, and of course I trust that Triple H will, and that they really propel Bronson Reed on Raw going forward, because this guy has all the tools to be a real star on the main roster. That's the thing. WWE's, like I said earlier, WWE has a really deep roster of stars, an insanely deep roster of stars right now. But yeah, really, really good stuff here with this segment. It continues CM Punk and Drew McIntyre, and now it establishes a new rivalry with Seth Rollins and Bronson Reed, and it takes Seth away from CM Punk in the meantime, and you can save that match for a little bit later down the line. So really, really good stuff there. I think with Punk and Drew, I don't know, like, we know CM Punk, he's not on a full-time schedule, right? He's there most of the time, but he's not there all of the time. So I don't know when's his next appearance going to be. I think, maybe you consider doing Punk and McIntyre 2 at Bash in Berlin, right? Clearly that rivalry's, far from over. I think this is probably a trilogy with those two, right? So maybe you do the second match at Bash in Berlin. If not, of course, you would do the next match at probably Bad Blood. But I keep thinking Bad Blood's not in September, right? Bad Blood's in October. So let me take a quick look at WWE's PLE schedule just to make sure I have it right. Here we go. Yeah, Bash in Berlin's August 31st. So Bad Blood is so Bash in Berlin's August 31st, literally the last day of September, and then Bad Blood's October 5th. So there's no PLE scheduled for September. They have NXT No Mercy, but That's NXT. So yeah, so Bad Blood. So Bad Blood would make sense. October 5th. There we go. All right. So getting back into it. So like I said, Punk and McIntyre. You know, you could do it in Bash in Berlin, and then maybe you end it at Bad Blood, which I do think will have at least one or maybe even two Hell in a Cell matches. Um, but we'll see what WWE is, WWE's plan is going forward. Um, but yeah, it all depends on really Punk's schedule. Next up, we had the New Day versus AOP. So Kofi Kingston came back. He was taken out by Karrion Kross a couple weeks ago. So Kofi came back tonight. So they had Woods and Kofi continue their rivalry with AOP in the Final Testament with Karrion Kross. So it looked like Scarlett was going to interfere for the heels, but then we had Odyssey Jones. Odyssey Jones make his return. Remember, Odyssey Jones from NXT. Remember, this guy is huge. I believe he's like 6'8", like 400 pounds. This guy is a beast, an absolute beast of a man. He took out Karrion Kross at ringside. That distraction allowed Woods to pick up the win. I think he rode AOP up. So New Day get the win. Afterwards, Jones cleared out the rest of the heels. He did a double sidewalk slam, which is insane. Remember, AOP, I think both men are close to 300 pounds. So he's just doing a double a sidewalk slam with basically 600 pounds on his arms. And he made it look pretty damn easy. So there you go. And then afterwards, backstage, the babyfaces celebrated. So it looks like maybe Odyssey Jones, or Odyssey Jones. I don't know. I don't think I'm saying his name correctly. Looks like he might become the new unofficial member of the New Day, right? They've never replaced Big E. I'm starting to think also with a lot of these faction groups, right? With WWE that you have growing, you had, of course, Chad Gable's new faction revealed, American Made, which we'll talk about when we get to the main event here in a little bit. You have the White Six. You have the Final Testament, Judgment Day, right? I'm starting to think it's eventually, and it makes sense for WWE to have all these factions because the rosters are so deep that you kind of need it. I'm thinking that maybe it's time WWE considers getting trio titles. I know AEW did it first, but it might not be a bad idea for WWE to consider. Really, you keep building up all these factions. It might make sense to have a trios title, just one set. I'm not talking you need multiple sets on both brands. I'm talking about maybe one set of trios titles for the entire main roster. And I would also include NXT as well. But we'll see. We'll see. But I think that it's something that we should potentially consider here, going into the coming weeks. Next up, we had Awesome Truth versus A-Town Down Under. So we saw Randy Orton from SmackDown make an appearance tonight. Now we had A-Town Down Under. Remember, The Miz and R-Truth had a little bit of beef with them at SummerSlam. Which is why they made this match tonight. They also at least gave you an explanation for it. They said that Nick Aldis and Adam Pearce, an agreement of having A-Town Down Under on SmackDown or on Raw tonight, that we would see a couple Raw superstars appearing on SmackDown. So we'll just have to see who that is. Maybe it's like Sami Zayn and Jey Uso, right, helping Roman Reigns against the New Bloodline. Maybe that's what it ends up being. But we'll see. We'll see. But at least they gave us some sort of explanation for that. This was an okay, tag team match. Nothing special. But yeah, Austin Theory and Waller got the victory. And then you saw that, Miz and Truth were frustrated as you know, not only have they lost the World Tag Team Championships, but they haven't been able to, recapture any momentum. So you never know. Maybe Miz and R-Truth will be splitting soon. I don't know. I don't really care about that team so much. I love R-Truth, but it's more of a gag team than anything. They lost most of their interest, after losing the tag team title. So we'll see. Plus, can Miz get on rhythm when he does R-Truth's like "What's Up" theme song? Like it's actually like cringe to listen to. How he can never be on rhythm when R-Truth does the "What's Up." Like I don't get that. Whatever. But anyway, moving on. We had Damian Priest versus JD McDonough. This was really good. This whole segment was really, really good. But the match, this was physical. Like JD kind of impressed me here. I'm not the biggest JD McDonough fan, right? But they both, but I forgot to mention that both of these two men cut really good promos on each other. Going to the match, JD explained how how Damian never actually wanted him in the Judgment Day, right? And it was more because of Finn Balor was the reason why JD first ever really got accepted into the Judgment Day, which is true. But now everything's changed. Damian Priest, one of the original members of the Judgment Day, one of the leaders is now out and JD is in, right? And how, JD had been waiting for months for this opportunity and how he was going to make the most of it. Then Damian Priest cut a really good promo as well. Talking about how, Finn was going to set JD to weaken him, but that, all that Finn did was send JD to an early death wish, right? And that JD was going straight to hell. Damian's gotten really good and really confident here, which is really good to see. If you look back to when I was looking back at one of his old NXT promos, right? You look back in when he was back in NXT, he wasn't a bad promo down there either, but he's really, really come a long way now. He's really confident in himself, right? And you can tell he believes what he's saying with his character. So, good stuff from Damian Priest. Good promos from both of these two. And this was a very physical match. Very physical match. JG was laying it on Priest with the chops, but, Damian kept eating them. Then we saw Carlito, Dominic, and Liv came out, but it looked like Damian was just about to get the win, but then Finn Balor attacked, which caused a disqualification. So we saw all of the Judgment Day, all of the new Judgment Day attacking Damian, but Damian kept fighting back, right? And every time he saw Finn Balor, you could see the blood in Damian's eyes, as all he wanted to do was get his hands on his old friend, the guy who betrayed him and cost him the World Heavyweight title. Damian was like, I can get the World Heavyweight Championship back, but I'm going to deal with you first. Then we saw that it was still a lot. It was still what, 4-on-1? I think that it was Carlito, JD, Finn, Dom, even Liv got it. So it was more of a 5-on-1 situation for Damian, right? Then we saw Rhea Ripley come out to a insane pop, one of the craziest pops that I've ever seen Rhea see. I think it was a larger pop than the pop Rhea got when she first came back from her shoulder injury about 2-3 weeks back before SummerSlam. Rhea got an insane pop. So Rhea came down at first, and she went right after Dominic and Liv. She got Liv and sent her flying into the LED post. Liv does an amazing job of selling. Reminds me a lot of Sasha Banks, Mercedes Moné. Liv is a really, really good seller. Then she was going to put Liv through the announce table with a riptide, but Dominic made the save and ran away. One thing that I am very interested in is seeing what Dominic says when the time comes, why Dominic, chose Liv over Rhea. Like I can't wait to hear that response. Hopefully that we get that on Raw next week. But Rhea then went back into the ring, and JD was still trying to get some licks in on Damian. But then Rhea came up behind JD. Rhea hit JD with one hell of a headbutt. And I think Damian Priest did one of the best choke slams I've ever seen. Like, it's rare to see. And I've seen a lot of great choke slams from Undertaker, Kane, Big Show, etc. This dude, like, freaking Damian lifted JD into the air. Like, wow, super. You guys haven't seen it, go. People were talking about it on social media or YouTube. Go see it. It was one of the best choke slams I've ever seen. And absolutely sent, what's his name? Sent, JD hard into the map. Like, I would not be surprised if JD wakes up with a broken or sore back tomorrow. Insane choke slam. And of course, Rhea and Damian stood tall to end the segment, right? The Terror Twins, as we call them, stood tall. So they are not just, not standing down to the new Judgment Day. So clearly that's going to be the feud going forward. Damian and Rhea against, their old friends in the Judgment Day, right? Rhea is clearly going to be going after Dom and Liv, trying to get back her title, trying to, get payback on Dom for betraying her at SummerSlam. And of course, Damian wants to go after Finn Balor, his old best friend and the guy who betrayed him and kicked him out of the Judgment Day. Right, a really good segment. The fans, that crowd was really, really hot for Rhea and Damian tonight. So, like I said, WWE's done a really good job building Damian into a legit babyface now. So that's going to be a fun rivalry going forward. Of course, Rhea's, probably the most over women's wrestler in the world right now, outside of Mercedes Moné and Britt Baker, and Toni Storm. So, really, really good stuff here. I think what the plan will be for at least Bash in Berlin, I think probably what they're gonna do, I can see them doing like a mixed tag match, something like Liv and Dom versus Rhea and Damian. Like I said, they're gonna save Finn and Damian probably for like Bad Blood. Like, it's gonna be hard. Like, we still have 2 months before that PLE, so it's gonna be hard to keep those two apart. But I think what WWE will probably do, it's probably going to be a mixed tag with those two teams at Bash in Berlin. Maybe it ends up being Finn and Liv versus Damian and Rhea. But I think, it'll be more Damian and Rhea versus Dom and Liv. And then at Bad Blood, maybe that's when we'll see Damian and Finn go at it finally. And then we'll see probably Rhea and Liv go at it at Bad Blood. Like I said, I love Rhea. I love Rhea. She's one of my favorite women's wrestlers in the world. I think she's probably my favorite after Mercedes Moné. But I also love Liv Morgan, and I don't want to see Liv lose that title anytime soon. Of course, I want to see Rhea be champion again, but I think right now is the perfect time. What they got going with Liv's doing an amazing job as champion, so I don't think they should rush to get the title back to Rhea just because. I could see those two having a Hell in a Cell match at Bad Blood potentially. I could see it, but we'll see where WWE wants to take the storyline. But like I said, this was really, really good. So yeah, we'll see where this storyline goes. Moving forward, we had Io Sky versus Sonya Deville. It was originally supposed to be Dakota Kai versus Sonya Deville, but Sonya and her faction, they attacked Dakota before the match, going after her injured knee. Of course, her surgically ACL repaired knee as well. But still, Io stepped in, got the win here over Sonya. It was an okay match, right? But yeah, like I said, I still think we should get a little bit of an explanation of why Damage Control is babyfaces now. Because remember, what Zoe Stark's faction is doing to Damage Control has been doing to the woman on the roster now for years. So just because like one faction just started attacking Damage Control, I don't think that's enough for me just to believe. You know, they're baby faces now. Oh, they got attacked by another faction. Oh, all of a sudden they're the good people in my eyes. Like, you know, I would still like some kind of explanation, just a little bit of why I should care about Damage Control as baby faces now. I love Dakota Kai. Like, I love her. I would love to see her get a singles push, but you know, another thing I would just say, like, what happened to Asuka? I know Asuka. I remember when Damage Control originally got sent over the Raw. I believe Asuka was in that package. So did Asuka like get injured? Can somebody in the comment section let me know like what happened to Asuka? Like, I'm actually pretty interested in that. And based on what now that I'm looking at Twitter, it looks like Asuka got injured. Oh, Asuka had knee surgery. Okay, there you go. So yeah, I didn't know that, to be honest. So Asuka had a knee injury. I'm looking at Kate side seats. So, and this was after Backlash. So okay. So yeah, so we'll see when Asuka comes back. Okay, so yeah. Yeah, I was wondering. Like, what happened to Asuka? I honestly did not know she had injured her knee. But okay. So yeah. So then moving on into our main event, we had the Wide Six versus Chad Gable, and his new faction, the Chad Gable and the Creed Brothers. They're now called America Made, which is perfect, faction for them. Right? They had the matching singlets. And when Chad Gable came out, they actually did the "You Suck" chants, the same things they would do for Kurt Angle for so many years. So now it seems like Chad Gable now carries on that legacy with his new faction. You can see Chad Gable coming out, and he actually stopped mid-entry. He was like, "Wait, am I getting like the "You Suck" chants now?" And then yes, he did. So yeah, so one thing I did not know, the Wide Six, they made their entrance tonight, right? They came out the Bray Wyatt's final theme song, and it was a nice slow entrance as well. They got a good pop from the Baltimore crowd. One thing I didn't know, Baltimore, this was the same town where the original Wyatt family made their debut 11 years earlier, which seems like forever ago, man. 11 years, man. Time goes by fast. Really, I was in high school at that. I don't know. I wasn't even in high school yet. I was in middle school. I think it was in 8th grade. I was here in 8th or 7th grade at that time. Yeah, I think that was like just the beginning of my 8th grade year. So it's just crazy how fast time flies. Wow, make me feel a little bit old. But yeah, this was not a bad match. Not a bad match. I still find it crazy. How did Dexter Loomis just get dreads so quick? Like, I feel like that hair is fake. There's no way. Because last time we saw Dexter Loomis, he was bald. Now he has long ass dreads. But still, the crowd was hot for the Wide Six. It was good to see Eric Rowan. It looked like he got a little bit emotional there as well. Right? This was his first match in WWE television in a long time. But yeah, so during the commercial break, American Made dominated by isolating Gracie and away from the rest of his team. But then they made the hot tag to Rowan, and then they obliterated the heels, and basically after the match, Uncle Howdy and Nikki Cross joined in the ring, and then you get a nice, cool, emotional visual of the Wyatt Six, paying tribute to the old Wyatt family and Bray Wyatt, of course, as they celebrated and posed in the ring to end the show. So yeah, that was that. But yeah, Monday Night Raw tonight was a really, really good show. One of the best of the Triple H era, and I like. It's hard to rank really these Triple H shows, man. It's just, he's just really good. Booker of the Year. This was one of the best SummerSlam Fallout shows, Raw after SummerSlam, whatever you want to call it, shows that we've gotten in a really long time. And it really does keep the momentum going for WWE as we enter into the late summer, early fall months here, man. So we got Bash in Berlin coming up, right? And, we have all month to build up towards that show. We got already what could be the main event with Randy Orton and Gunther for the World Heavyweight Championship. We'll see on SmackDown what the SmackDown part of Bash in Berlin starts building towards. We have the return of the original Tribal Chief, head of the table, Roman Reigns, coming back. So we'll see what is the next step with Roman Reigns and his battle with Solo and the new bloodline. What do they have planned for us? What does Roman have to say? Will we see Paul Heyman make his return alongside Roman Reigns as the Wise Men? Could we see maybe a return from Jimmy Uso, maybe, right? Who knows? But SmackDown is must watch this Friday. You might get a review from me this weekend. We'll see. But yeah, what's next for Cody Rhodes and the WWE Championship? Do they potentially tease or set up a rematch with Roman? Cody versus Roman 3, maybe at Bash in Berlin? I don't think so, but you never know. You never know. How will Solo respond to the return of Roman Reigns and the original Tribal Chief as well? LA Knight, the new United States champion. We'll see what they have planned with him. Finally, so happy for LA Knight. Finally getting his big moment in WWE. Nia Jax is the new women's champion. I'm not excited about that at all, but we'll see. What's the plan there? Will Bayley get a rematch for the title? Who knows? But still a lot to look forward to. Also, we also see what's going on with Jacob Fatu. We know he injured his leg at SummerSlam in what looked to be a legit injury. So we'll see what happens there, if that has anything to do with the the Bloodline, who just won the WWE Tag Team Championships from DIY last week on SmackDown. And I feel bad for DIY, of course. They had just gotten that victory about a month ago, and they only get to hold the titles for less than a month. But still, SmackDown is must-see this Friday. We'll see what's everything going on with Roman, LA Knight, Cody Rhodes, and more. But we'll see if it's as good as Raw was this week. But Raw really had a banger of a show. A lot to look forward to as we go into the coming weeks with Drew McIntyre and CM Punk continuing their rivalry, the build-up of Bronson Reed and Seth Rollins, the Terror Twins of Rhea and Damian going up against the New Judgment Day, Gunther versus Randy Orton, and so much more. So a lot to look forward to in WWE going forward. A lot coming up. Sami Zayn and Braun Breaker next week for the IC title in a 2 out of 3 falls match. So lots of cool stuff coming forward, and we're going to continue breaking it all down here on the Legit Shoot podcast. So thank you guys for joining me. I hope you guys enjoyed the review. If you guys did, leave a like on the video. Subscribe if you guys are new to the channel by hitting the bell right next to my name, Fitzmonk TV, so you guys are notified every time I post a new video. I will see you guys later. I'm going to get out of here. Stay safe and healthy, y'all. Peace.